At the beginning of the movie, we see an astronaut named David, who works alone to maintain the core satellite with a salary of $500,000. In this era, the times have developed very advanced, where every human has a robot box with extraordinary abilities. The function of the robot is to search and deliver information, as well as being a conversation partner. Moreover, this robot can store human memories in the form of files. We see David in outer space. At the moment, David is talking to the robot he bought for $40 million. The robot is designed to accompany David in working, as well as controlling all the sensors embedded in David's protective suit. His current task is to fix minor damage to the satellite, so that scientists can observe the movement of the meteor that is claimed to hit the Earth. There, David also talked about the human generation that was increasingly chaotic due to sophisticated objects. Even the space agencies began to be lazy to take care of this satellite. For that reason, David was sent alone to fix this core satellite. When checking the condition of the satellite body, David made a mistake that resulted in an explosion of electric waves. David was shocked and immediately sent a warning to the Earth through his robot. Unfortunately, the signal was cut off due to the effect of satellite damage. Meanwhile, the effect of this damage began to appear on Earth, in the form of lightning that kept striking. Then, we are shown a robot collection place, where this place is owned by a man, namely Brian. There is a woman who also happens to be looking for a new robot at a cheap price. Brian introduced a robot that resembled an old man. He called him Charlie. Unfortunately, the woman was not interested at all, because she saw the robot that was too outdated and too big in size. She canceled to buy it. Meanwhile, Brian tried to train the artificial brain that was embedded in Charlie so that he could adapt to the modern environment at this time. However, Charlie gave up and considered himself only as an outdated robot that was useless. Brian put his robots back to sleep. Then he tried to offer his robots to various places by phone. But their answers also rejected. The TV broadcast was seen to be error due to satellite damage. And also there are several news that show the threat of a giant meteor that will hit the Earth. Meanwhile, David, who was floating aimlessly in the vacuum, had a problem with his thruster. As a result, he could not direct his body, so he was trapped there. Plus, the connection with the head office was also cut off. David could only scream without hoping for anything. He drifted there. And because of the satellite damage, the astronomers could not predict the threats of foreign objects to the Earth. Next, we show a woman named Claire, who had just woken up from her sleep. At that time, she was immediately greeted by a new model robot shaped like a prism. And what was more surprising, Claire called the robot God. From here, it is concluded that humans in this era no longer worship God, but worship a robot all-knowing as a substitute for God. Whatever Claire did, the robot knew it. Then the robot judged her. The robot used camera sensor technology and was directly connected to Claire's brain through sensors. That's why the robot could read what Claire was thinking and Claire's feelings. The robots that became substitutes for God for humans had the function of giving warnings and recording the sins committed by humans. One example is Claire, who every time she made a mistake would be fined $25, which had to be paid when she paid her monthly taxes. However, the sins could be alleviated if Claire was responsible for fixing them. Meanwhile, Brian, the owner of the old-fashioned robot collection place, felt desperate because his robots were no longer in demand. He even decided to destroy his robots, rather than live with misery because he felt useless. Finally, he destroyed his robots and faced bankruptcy in his life. Elsewhere, Claire panicked when she found out that her robot had died completely. She called the nearest counter to ask about the damage to her robot. The counter staff advised Claire to go to the head office to replace her robot with a newer version. They explained that her robot was damaged due to damage from the satellite, so she had to replace her robot with a fiber optic technology robot without having to use the satellite. Then we show a man named Ben, who was then logging into his VR robot to replay the recording of his brain contents in VR. He looked back at his girlfriend named Anna, where they had just started dating, and remembered the times when they were dating. But unbeknownst to him, the VR he used also affected Anna's brain in the real world, where Anna herself always hallucinated seeing Ben's shadow that kept making her scared. It happened only when Ben started his VR. Meanwhile, David, The astronaut who lost contact drifted further away from the Earth because he was carried away by the vacuum of space. There he talked to his robot and kept regretting his actions that caused the satellite damage. Back to Ben. His identity has now been known by Anna, where the shadow figure that always appeared in his brain turned out to be Ben. Anna deleted all memories with Ben because she was disappointed. Meanwhile, Ben was currently enjoying his VR, but he experienced visual errors because Anna had deleted him. Ben took off his VR and regretted his actions, where that was the last memory he had with Anna. On the other hand, Claire arrived at the head office to replace her robot, but the robot developer instead raised the price and claimed that his technology had improved. After taking it home, the new robot turned out to be more aggressive, where every movement Claire made, the robot would record it as a sin. Knowing that, Claire felt restless because the more sins she had, the more fines piled up. Therefore, she finally threw the robot away. Elsewhere, we see a couple named Nina and Liam. Nina is a wicked woman who used to work in entertainment. Fortunately, Liam fell in love with her and took her to his house, which turned out to be from a wealthy family. Nina's rude attitude with Liam's family made Liam's parents hate her. At dinner, Nina also mocked Liam's mother because she was disgusted by the old-fashioned robot that looked like a human. Liam's father tried to calm the situation by changing the topic, where he immediately discussed the news about an astronaut who lost contact. But Liam's mother remained firm in her stance, where she did not approve of the relationship between Liam and Nina. Meanwhile, Ben approached Anna's apartment to beg her to return their memories. But the situation became more chaotic, because Anna was disappointed with Ben's actions, who had broken up with Anna a long time ago. Anna wanted to erase all her memories of Ben, but Ben didn't want to. Ben forced Anna to get back together and threatened her. This made Anna scared, and she was forced to paralyze Ben with the tools she brought. Back to David, where his robot warned that the oxygen supply in his tank would only last for 6 days. David also saw the stars that had died, which would form a black hole. The pressure of the vacuum made him weaker, and he remembered his little daughter on Earth. He remembered the previous moments where his child and wife could watch the live broadcast through TV. In the past, David was prioritized as the only person who wanted to go to take care of the satellite. But not anymore. The increasingly sophisticated technology made humans selfish, without caring about anything around them. Now David gave up in the middle of the debris of the star explosion that was getting closer to the Earth. Next, we show a teenager named Magda, who has lived with her mother in poverty since childhood. Plus, her mother is an alcoholic addict who told her to sell herself. At that time, her mother forcibly told Magda to go to the body transfer place. This is their chance to get a lot of money. Magda initially refused because she was afraid if her body was abused, but out of pity for her mother, she agreed to do it. After arriving at the body transfer location, there she met a man named Mickey, who was ready to rent Magda's body for 24 hours. They both entered the connected bags, where this technology would transfer their consciousness to another body. Meanwhile, Liam's parents, who disagreed with Liam and Nina's relationship, dared to erase Liam's memory of Nina. Nina was shocked and quickly met Liam, but after looking at each other, Liam's memory of Nina was completely gone. Seeing that, Nina gave up and left Liam. On the other hand, Mickey, who is now in Magda's body, feels a new sensation of being a woman. He touched parts of his body that were very pleasant, and performed the finger ritual that you would surely do too. He also met a man named Vincent, who worked at the body transfer location. Vincent seemed tempted by the beauty of Magda's body, and he offered her to go to a party. Mickey left still using Magda's body, where his goal was to find a beautiful female prey. But there Vincent and his wife came to meet him and told him to prepare an empty room. Mickey entered the room where he had transferred and got rid of his own body's corpse. After they all gathered, it turned out that Vincent and his wife were going to have a cocaine party. Vincent offered Mickey, and Mickey happily accepted it, but Magda's body had a sensitive effect to the cocaine, so that Mickey quickly got drunk. And unconsciously he was raped by Vincent. Mickey resisted, but Vincent was violent until Mickey passed out. Fortunately, Vincent's wife caught him, and she immediately got rid of Vincent. His wife immediately looked for Mickey's identity, who turned out to be using the body of a 16-year-old girl named Magda. Because she was confused and didn't know anything, Vincent's wife then threw Magda's dying body to her home address, and this is the end of Magda's life, whose brain memory will never be able to return. Meanwhile, David, who was still trapped in outer space, was shocked to see the meteor moving towards the Earth. Because he saw the meteor moving towards the Earth, he could only be silent and resigned, because this important information would never be delivered. At the same time on Earth, the government announced a lockdown due to the third mutation of the coronavirus from COVID-19. We see the action of local residents who started to riot. Here we also see Brian, who was on his way home, but he was surprised to see a giant light in the sky and immediately ran. News also emerged to warn residents to gather at a predetermined point. We also see David's daughter, who was wearing an astronaut suit. She felt sad because she was separated from her mother. David's child was approached by a local woman who asked about her condition. She answered that her father was currently in outer space and had not returned. Everyone on Earth also felt desperate and confused about what was really happening. Meanwhile, David, who was still trapped in outer space, witnessed the Earth's disaster, and it was certain that all his family had also died. 2 giant meteors hit the Earth and formed a crater that eventually destroyed its entire surface. Now, only David is left to witness the extinction of humanity. He remembered when he last gave his child an astronaut suit. Oxygen that only lasted for 5 more days made David give up and ponder his fate. He imagined if only humans didn't become spoiled by technology, then all the tragic events that we saw from the beginning of the movie wouldn't have happened. The movie ends. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. Because by subscribing, you have supported me to make better videos. See you in the next video.